there are many more things. If you were observing in our previous tutorials, there were many more things that were not discussed duly, such as these gappings. These gappings were not intended. We never tried to give any kind of gap over here from the bottom or from the top. If you see our previous tutorials, you will see when we have used some kind of background colors over here, there were gaps. All along there were gaps on the top, on the middle, from the left, from the right, but these gaps were not intended. These were actually a default gap that has been attributed by default by the HTML document itself. So this time we can cut off or eliminate the possibility of those gaps into this, all by stating over here, and of course into this style type text by CSS, such as HTML body margin 0, padding 0. Press Ctrl S, reload, and you see now that those gaps have actually been eliminated. You see here from the bottom there is no gap, and from the top there isn't actually any gap. Another thing, you must note it down here that I have used only the selector name over here. This selector name, which has been described over here with this dot tag holder. This dot, this actually defines the usage of a class. Tag holder is actually the separator name. These are the properties that we are about to assign to the respective content, and this semicolon part, this is actually a separator, and all of these things together, they are known as the styling of your document. They are actually styling all your document, and you have declared a class name over a selector name over here. So next time whenever you are trying to do something, all you are doing here, you are just calling that class tag holder by name, and all these attributes like width, 600 pixels, margin, this, that, everything, those are now being attributed to this div element that you have introduced over here. So no extra line of coding, nothing, and all of them, those are declared over here, and now all you are doing, you are just calling them by name, calling it by the class name, or you may call it by an ID name. If you want to provide an ID, all you had to do here, you had to replace this dot with a hashtag, and then you had to write over here the ID as tag holder. Now you come back to your page and reload, and you see that the same thing is happening. Now you may ask the question that what is the basic difference between a class and ID? You can use this class while you are using a class. If you are using a class over here, you may call this class name anywhere on this page and for a multiple number of times, however times you want to call them in. But if you specify an ID over here, then you may call that ID once in this whole HTML page. And if you want to reuse that ID, then you have to go for a separate page, and you have to make for a separate, and you have to look for a separate CSS properties, and then you may call it. But that won't be a wise thing. Actually, in a whole project, a particular ID is being used once, and it never been used twice. So this is the main difference between a class and ID. Now you are using practically here a class name. You are calling that class name over here, and all these attributes which are separated by a separator, they are being called to you right now. So this is a perfect use of an internal CSS, but this is not the only one. Suppose that you are working for a big project out there, and there will be a plenty of things, plenty of such class names, plenty of ID names, and just imagine that you are using all those class names or ID names into a single page, that into your HTML page, without separating them into a single page. And now think about the speed of your website, the loading time they are actually using the speed of the website, in which speed, at which your page is being loaded into a browser, into a machine, first time on a machine, on a browser, what outcome it will bring to you. It's a tremendous one. The page will take minutes, maybe hours to be loaded, and that is why if you just stylize all your CSS elements into a particular HTML element, then it will be a massacre thing. It will be a very odd thing to use, and that will be a very idiotic thing practically to use onto a single page. So it's a very wise thing that all these class names or ID names, that means all these selector names along with their properties, they are actually written onto a separate page, and they are linked with a single line to your main page, and whenever they are being called, they are being called as it is. We have seen over here, we have named a selector name as tag holder, and we are calling it by name over here. Likewise, I may call it anywhere in this page. So this is the essentiality that brings on the concept of external CSS. External CSS or imported CSS, these are nothing. Actually, all these styling properties, those are written into a separate page, those are saved into a separate page, and with a single line and into the head segment of your website or of your project, that it actually links that separate CSS page to your main HTML page, and then all the properties written over here, those can be fetched into your HTML document without weighing much your main project index page. So this is what that brings the necessity of external CSS, and we will be discussing about it shortly after this.